Everywhere you look in US politics, everyone, including Elon Musk, is brutally denouncing Governor of California, Gavin Newsom. And according to Elon Musk, Newsom destroyed the most powerful state of the United States, California, for a reason. And this isn't just about this state anymore, because Newsom's policies, decisions and failures are now being called a national threat. From mass migration to economic decline, what's happening in California is no longer local. It's a warning for the entire country, and there are a lot of behind-the-scenes processes that are unknown public. But is that really the truth? Because as you'll see, California hasn't just gone off course, it's spiralling. From collapsing systems to policies that are backfiring in real time, what's happening inside the state is far worse than most people realise. As Musk says, everyone should know what Gavin has done in California. So let's explain everything. So 2 days ago, Elon Musk expressed his confusion on X and tweeted that he was stunned by Gavin Newsom's latest move. A decision so reckless it could push California past the point of no return. So what exactly is happening? Well, California is in deep financial trouble, and Gavin Newsom knows it. The fifth largest economy on earth is unravelling. California's deficit has exploded past $45 billion. And now Newsom is proposing brutal cuts that would hit the most vulnerable people in the state. Elderly people, talented students and working parents, at the exact moment they need help most. And it's not just bad luck. Trump's tariff policies, a huge Medi-Cal funding gap, and delayed tax filings from wildfire victims in LA have all smashed the state's revenue expectations. Even worse, federal spending cuts are still coming. According to 10 officials briefed on the situation, lawmakers are already being told, brace yourselves. When Newsom rolls out the revised budget, it won't be pretty. Just a few months ago, Newsom's own finance department said California would see a small surplus. Now, they're completely lost. Tariffs and missing tax payments, especially from the ultra-wealthy, are making the state's finances a guessing game. One lawmaker admitted, "We're going to be trying to pass a shell of a budget. They're just fake numbers because we just don't know." And even though income taxes came in $4 billion above estimates, the damage from inflation and high prices is killing that momentum. Newsom himself admitted it during a recent press conference. He said his new budget will reflect a downgrade in economic outlook in this state, with falling GDP, rising unemployment, and more inflation on the way. Gavin Newsom triggered massive backlash again after proudly announcing he's cutting 10,000 unfilled state jobs. Yeah, technically these jobs were vacant, but they were tied to critical infrastructure California already failed to deliver. This move is part of his plan to slash nearly $33 billion from the state budget over the next 2 years. But here's the twist. Newsom is saying that cutting these positions will help California keep funding programs for the homeless, immigrants, low-income families and kids in schools. The same groups that are already being crushed by the system falling apart. It's like he's trying to spin a collapse into a win, and people weren't buying it. One tweet went viral instantly. So Gavin Newsom's going to slash 10,000 imaginary jobs to make up for the $27 billion of magically missing money that was supposed to solve the homeless crisis. Got it. Elon Musk saw it and didn't waste time. He replied with just 7 words. This is bizarre on so many levels. That one line hit hard. Musk didn't need to say more. It was another clear shot at Newsom's leadership, and a warning that this isn't just bad budgeting. It's a political breakdown, plain and simple. And it's important to point out, this collapse of California didn't just happen overnight. It's been building for years. Everything started unraveling back in 2020, when California took some of the hardest punches economically, and a big part of that was Gavin Newsom's extreme lockdown strategy. While other states started easing up, California doubled down with some of the strictest, longest-lasting lockdowns in the country. Entire industries collapsed. Hospitality, small retail, tourism and entertainment all forced to shut down. Over 3 million jobs were wiped out. Sure, tech boomed for a minute with remote work, but that only helped a narrow slice of the population. Meanwhile, the working class got wrecked. Layoffs, closures, and Elon Musk didn't just disagree with California's pandemic restrictions, he openly defied them. He was furious, calling the state's restrictions fascist, and warned that Tesla could leave California altogether. Then he did what most CEOs wouldn't dare. He reopened his factory anyway, completely ignoring county orders and daring officials to stop him. It sparked a full-on public showdown. Officially, the fight was with Alameda County, but everyone knew the real battle was with Sacramento. Newsom's so-called science-based lockdowns had already frozen half the economy. And for Musk, this wasn't just about building cars, it was about fighting control. What looked like a health policy fight on the surface quickly became a clash of values, one side demanding obedience for safety, and the other warning that California was creeping toward authoritarian rule under the banner of public health. Thus, Newsom's wrong decisions during this time didn't go unnoticed, and not in a good way. Instead of reopening or adjusting, he kept extending restrictions, shutting schools, and spending billions on programs that didn't move the needle. The frustration hit a boiling point when Newsom got caught partying maskless at the French Laundry while telling everyone else to stay home. That moment sparked a massive recall movement, and even as things started to improve in late 2021, Newsom wasn't done. He rolled out new regulations, taxes, and climate mandates that made it even harder for businesses to survive. Then, from 2020 to 2022, California didn't just take an economic hit, it began bleeding people and companies. Tesla left, Oracle left, thousands of families followed. And they all had the same reasons: unaffordable housing, rising crime, and a government that just wouldn't listen. Then between 2023 and 2024, the situation got even worse. California's economy kept sliding deeper into trouble. Job openings dropped by 30%, and by September 2024, unemployment had climbed to 5.3%, the second worst in the country. Why? High taxes, insane living costs, and a $20 minimum wage for fast food workers that forced a wave of automation and layoffs. Big names like Tesla, Oracle, and Chevron packed up and left for states that actually support business. And sure, California was still adding about 16,500 jobs a month, but most of those were government jobs, not private sector growth. At the centre of all this chaos was Gavin Newsom's economic management, which critics say made everything worse. Back in 2022, his administration bragged about a $97 billion surplus. Turns out, that was completely wrong. The real number was off by $165 billion, and suddenly the state was staring down massive deficits. To cover the mess, Newsom dipped into emergency reserves and borrowed internally. Then in 2024, he rolled out a massive $322 billion budget and claimed there'd be a surplus. But it was all accounting tricks, no real fixes, just more smoke and mirrors while the public kept losing trust and the state's finances got shakier by the day. And today in 2025, the situation is worse than ever. Everywhere you look, there is some problem in the state because the crisis is everywhere in California. If California's economy is really booming, like Gavin Newsom keeps claiming, then why does the state have one of the highest unemployment rates in the country, with over 1 million people still out of work? And why does it hold the title for the worst poverty rate in America? None of that adds up. If the economy's as strong as he says, then why are we stuck in this endless cycle of multi-billion-dollar deficits? And yeah, tax revenue is slightly ahead of schedule right now, but it's nowhere near enough to cover the massive spending hole, especially with Medi-Cal costs exploding way past what last year's budget planned for. With that, California just hit a new level of absurd, because now even people making over $100,000 a year are considered low income in parts of the state. New data from the Department of Housing and Community Development shows that the bar for qualifying for affordable housing is rising fast. And it's not because people are getting poorer, it's because the cost of living is spiraling out of control. In Santa Clara County, if you make $111,700 a year, you still qualify as low income. In San Francisco and San Mateo, $109,700. Sacramento, Placer, and El Dorado counties are calling $72,050 low income for a single-person household. And in LA County, it just jumped to $84,850. Down in San Diego, it's $92,700. All of those numbers are up nearly 9% from last year. So yeah, California's housing crisis isn't getting better. It's accelerating. But probably the worst problem that California has is homelessness. With 187,000 people living on the streets, California isn't leading the nation in solutions, it's leading in failure. Cities like Oakland just saw a 9% spike in homelessness this year alone. And honestly, if the goal was to make things worse, then mission accomplished. The state has poured money into the crisis, but the results speak for themselves. We're not talking about a broke state here. California brings in $322 billion a year, and yet over the past 5 years, it's burned through $24 billion just on homelessness, with nothing to show for it. Why? because no one's tracking where the money goes. A state audit literally confirmed that the government has no clue what it's doing. Local governments aren't any better. San Diego spent millions without tracking results, and San Jose renewed an $8 million contract based on inflated, misleading data. Meanwhile, the state keeps acting like the budget's fine. Newsom's team claims a $363 million surplus, but they're pulling $7.1 billion from reserves just to keep the lights on. That's not balancing the budget, that's accounting magic. It's the same broken thinking that's wrecking everything else. Big promises, no results, and zero accountability. One thing we can say for sure is that California had a lot of challenges, and it's very clear that Newsom didn't respond to these challenges well. And as a result, California is in crisis and for sure is gradually collapsing.